Guys, I am knocking out some videos today. Same clothes, 3 episodes in a row. Let's do it. So, okay, so I just finished Baxter State Park. I just hiked Katahdin in my last episode. This one, my mom is leaving me and I am walking away for her for the next however many months. So pretty emotional on today. But yeah, it's gonna be good. So we finish Katahdin, we go back to the hotel, go to sleep. Another very hard night to sleep through because this night I'm saying goodbye the next morning. It's not just, okay, we're here to do this thing, we're gonna go back to sleep and then it's all happy dandy. It's really happening, like tomorrow's the day. So wake up, get our food, and then we go to Able Stream Bridge, which is where I started the hike, north to Katahdin Stream Campground. From there I went to Katahdin Baxter Peak and then back. So I'm starting at the base of Baxter State Park. So Riley's with me. Riley's suited up. She has her pack on. We are good to go. We take our picture together in the icy morning, which I will put a picture at the end of this as well. There's gonna be a lot more pictures now. And then we say bye to my mom. And she's crying. I can hear her crying behind me as I walk away across the bridge. I'm kind of crying. I'm still not sure what I'm doing. And yeah, it was crazy walking across the bridge, taking a hard left into the woods and following the white blazes on the trail. And then it was quiet. There was no one there. It was just me and Riley. She's having a great time. She's running around chasing squirrels. And yeah, so we started the hike. And we keep going south. And from that point, I remember the very first night we stayed. So most nights, so on the trail, there are shelters typically around 7 to 20 miles apart from each other. And these shelters are like wooden lean-tos. So there's usually a wooden floor, wooden sides with a wooden back, and then a slanted wooden roof at the top. And so it's open in the front. And again, you'll see lots of pictures of them at the end of these series. But what I would do is, up until it got really cold out, we would just stay in the shelters. Now, that's kind of not smart because, one, bears know hikers stay in shelters, so there's typically more bear in the area of the shelters. 2, other wildlife stay around them, like skunks, which I'll get into skunks later on. Carnivorous animals, so you have bears, skunks, foxes, you have, raccoons, pretty much mice, lots of mice. They kind of go to where they know humans are, where there's an easy food source. So not always the cleanest places to stay, but for me, it was the best option, especially as we got south into winter, because the heavy winds, the cold fronts that would come through those shelters provided a lot of additional coverage for us. But at first, we just stayed in the shelters. We didn't put a tent up. I just had my sleeping pad, my sleeping bag, which Riley stayed in with me, and then we just made food at night. So the very first night on trail, we got to, Rainbow Stream Lean-To. Now in the northern few states, I believe maybe just Maine, they're called lean-tos, mainly because that roof is leaning, whereas outside of Maine, they're just called shelters. They're the exact same thing. And in your guides, guys, they do explain the difference between like each shelter. Like I believe some of them have like a baseball mat floor, which is a little bit springier. So it tells you a little bit of difference between them, if they have a privy, if they have any additional things there, like a spring or water source. So that's where you typically get water in the mornings before we left for our hikes. This one was on a stream. So I remember we crossed the stream, and it was on a very narrow bridge, like as wide as 2 of your feet together. So we had to carefully walk across this probably like 10, 12 foot bridge. no handholds, to the other side, which is where the camp was. And we got there really early. We got there probably like 1 in the afternoon, which is very, very early. Typically you hike from sunrise to sundown, especially in the winter because your days are shorter. So we would hike from sunup to sundown for the majority of the hike, but I wanted to start a little bit slower, knowing that we had to build that fitness level. Otherwise I was going to get injured, she was going to get injured. We don't want to start the hike off injured. So first few days were very, very slow. We're taking our time. And I'm very glad we did, because the northern 3 states are very strenuous on your body because it's not hiking, it's bouldering. If you ask anyone that's hiked the trail, the northern states are all bouldering. You gain your hiking legs when you get out of Vermont and you start heading south. That's why it's easier for southbounders to hike north, because they have 1,500 miles to build their hiking bodies up and do the harder the harder 3 states. Whereas if you're heading south, you're starting right in the middle of the shit show pretty much. So going slow, we get to camp, we're the first ones there. I'm like, I'm gonna hang my bear bag, I'm gonna just throw it up over a tree, that way the bears will come out and get my food at night. And that was the one time, just kidding, 1 of 2 times I hung my food at night. I slept with it the rest of the time. Don't be me, don't do that unless you have a dog. Bears don't like dogs. I'm certain the reason we did not have animals come into our camp at night was because of Riley, because she smelled like a dog. They don't like dogs. So if you're alone and you don't have a dog, hang your food, be smart. I hung it the first night, took me 30 minutes to do it, and I never should have done it. It was stupid, it was a waste of my time. But we got into camp, and I set everything up, and I remember my feet were killing me already. So I took my food. Well, first I put Riley in my sleeping bag and let her sleep with her food. So she got to eat first every single night. She was the first priority. So she ate, took a nap on my sleeping bag. I walked probably the 10 yards from the shelter to the stream in front of it and put my feet in the cold water as like an ice bath. So I sat there and ate my food with my feet in the water, letting them cool off, which I recommend to anyone hiking. If you find a cold body of water, stick those feet in there and sit with them in there for 10-15 minutes every single chance you get. It's going to really help in the long run. So I ate dinner, and there were more people coming in, and eventually sun went down. There was an older man that came in after sundown and stayed in the shelter with me. Otherwise, there was like 20 other hikers hiking around the shelter. They didn't stay in the shelter. They put their campsite, their tents up around it. But this older man was through hiking as well. He's probably like 70 years old. There were some old guys on the trail. 70 years old, he's through hiking as well. He had just started, which means he hiked Katahdin, guys. He did it. I thought I couldn't do it. And this 70-year-old man is showing me up hiking Katahdin. Like, it is just nothing. So you really can do it. There are like 80-year-old people that hike this trail, guys. You can do it. So he comes in, we have a little chat. I don't remember his name. I'm sure it's in my notebook somewhere, and I'll see if I can find that later on. And then we go to bed. And I remember we woke up with the sun, Riley and I. We were the first ones out. Everyone is still sleeping. We grab our bag, we have our breakfast at camp, and then we start heading out, and that's when some people are coming out of their tents. Funnily, they were still in their sleeping bags, walking around in their sleeping bags because they were so cold, and I'm in a t-shirt and shorts. And they were saying that they're going to summit Katahdin because Katahdin does close. It is a seasonal mountain. It does close, and it's not like a hard date. It fluctuates every year based on the weather. So at this point, they had like 6 or 7 days, I believe. I think they usually close it around like October 8th. They had less than a week to hike the mountain. And so I knew that the further I would hike, the more northbound hikers I would run into, the less likely they were going to be able to finish their hikes because that mountain's going to close. So keep that in mind if you are hiking north. You do have to get to the summit before the park closes. Otherwise, you have to wait until usually May of the next year. May or June. Maybe it's June because they close the mountain for the winter. So know when the mountain closes. That's why I had to hike so early. Like, I was rushing to get my summit in because I didn't know when the park was going to close. Because remember, at the summit, there was ice already on the mountain, guys. So winter happens fast up north. So they're chatting with me, talking about me starting my hike, being the crazy person I was, asking me how Katahdin was. And then I asked them how the whole 2,180 some miles of their hike was, because we're only like a dozen miles in. They've hiked the whole thing. So I was just amazed by them and their ability. They were super excited to hear what I had to say about their upcoming 15 or so miles. And then we said bye. We kept hiking. And I don't think there was very much exciting that happened that first day other than that. So we'll pick back up with day 2 on the next episode. I'm going to be going through my notes more diligently because there are more exciting things happening, like my trail name coming up. Hurricane season, I run back into some friends. I run into Fallen again. So we'll get into all that on the following episodes, but make sure you're looking at the photos at the end because those are obviously the best part of the hike. So I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next Sunday. Bye.